Maria, how are you? Good
I'm
morning.
good. How are you?
I'm good today. So today, as I said, we're going to be speaking about appraisals and the inspection and the importance of having an inspection um, when you're buying a property and even before you're buying. So let me start about inspections, and then Maria, why don't you chime in and
Sure.
about the appraisal process and just
Yeah.
about the importance of it
Yeah.
and the significance of
And
it.
maybe
And also,
the differences, because a lot of times people confuse them.
that would be great. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think if one is buying a home or a condominium or a co-op, they should definitely consider doing an inspection. And it should be by a licensed home inspector, or an architect, or an engineer to really check the overall status and structure of the house. It's very important to really learn about any issues that could arise later on, and also it would suggest if one should do any very specific inspections after the standard inspection is done. So when I say standard, in Westchester County, and I believe in most places, you should do a structural inspection. You should do a test for termites. You should look for any kind of wood destroying insects, as well as a radon test. Now, I know in parts of Long Island, since the area is built on sand, they typically don't recommend a radon. I always recommend a radon because I've seen cases where there could be a ton of granite or stone in the house and it could pick up a level of radon or an increased level. So I think it's very important to really do that. In addition, a home inspector will really check for the roof. They check the drainage, the plumbing, the electrical systems. They'll see if there's any double tapping or any moisture in the electrical panel, as well as any foundation creaks, or if if the house is feeling that it's been settling in certain areas. They check all of those things out. And it's very important to do this before, in New York, again, you do this before you sign a contract.
Right.
I know in other states, let's say in New Jersey or even in Florida, they give you a time period
Right.
in which to do your due
Right.
diligence. We do it before you sign a contract. Now, very often today, because the market's very competitive, still, people are waiving inspections. If you work with me, you will have to sign off, or anybody in my office, sign off on something saying that it was your choice not to do an inspection. It's extremely, extremely important to go in and really understand what you're buying, right?
Yeah.
Before you sign that contract.
Yeah.
And often, if it's a more normal market, you can often bring up issues that you may want to renegotiate on the purchase price, right?
Right.
Maybe the furnace was old and it has to be replaced, and that could be, let's say, $10,000. That's something you may want to renegotiate. Now, one other point, and then I think Maria speak about appraisals, is that often people today, because the market's very competitive, they're doing inspections for informational purposes only. And what does that mean, really? It means that if something is major, the buyer could walk away from it. Or they could still, even though they say it, they could still bring up some major point that they feel would be critical to anybody buying the house. And they still have an option to bring it up or maybe renegotiate one or 2 points. But technically, it's really, you're buying it as is at that point, and it's just to gain
Right.
information. So, Maria.
Yeah. Yes. A couple of right that come up all the time is, is a home inspection the same thing as an appraisal? No, they're two different things. And as Michelle just said, typically the inspection is something that you're going to do well in New York prior to signing the contract. And an appraisal is something that actually can't happen or be ordered until after you sign a contract, right? I mean, appraiser has to have a fully executed contract before they can go out and appraise the home. An appraisal, the purpose of the appraisal is for the lender, is to determine that the collateral is valued at what the contract price is, right? It's
Right.
used to base your loan amount off of, and that the value is there. Now, there are things that the appraiser will notate in an appraisal if it's something that they can see with the naked eye, right? So if they walk into a room and they see that there is leaks, in the ceiling or spotting there, they're going to take pictures of that, and that will be noted on an appraisal. And typically a lender's going to, then want more information about that. Like, is there something going on there? And it could even affect your ability to get the loan. But an inspector, a home inspector is, an appraiser's not going to go on top of the roof, right? They're not inspecting the HVAC and that type of stuff. So it's especially when you're buying anything other than brand new construction, right? It's a really good idea to have the inspection done, because that's really where you're going to, when you walk into a home, remember this, right? The great real estate agents like Michelle and all that, it's going to be staged beautifully. Everything's going to look perfect.
Right.
I always think back to when I bought my home. I'm like, my home looks so perfect. And then and we did do a home inspection, and it was notated to us that that there were some issues with the gutters and that we probably would need to do a patch on the roof. But the first rainstorm, we had the big wet spot on the newly painted
Right.
ceilings and walls.
Right.
So those are the things that you want to at least know about before before you move in, before you
Right.
buy that home.
And I think also when inspectors look at a house, they're not only looking for structure, but they're also looking for health and safety issues,
Yeah.
right? So they're definitely looking if there's asbestos in the house, whether it be on the heating unit or in the tiles. Certain tiles, 8 or 9 inch tiles, have asbestos in it, or if there's asbestos on the outside or on the piping. So they'll also look for
Yeah.
radon, as I said, termites, and they'll also look for mold. And mold is becoming a really big issue now in New York. And you have to, with the new disclosure law, and we'll speak about that next week when we speak about legal issues. The new disclosure law will require the seller to complete, and one part of it has to do with mold. So it's very important that you really hire somebody who's very competent to really go through the house and teach you everything about the house. And also, I think with certain kind of financing, lenders will not lend if they see sheetrock missing, or holes in the wall, or holes in the ceiling, or mold.
Right.
Like an FHO, you can really explain that better than I can. But
Yeah, like you said, I mean, if it's anything that is a health and safety issue, and certainly mold is a major health and safety issue,
right,
it has to be remediated before the bank will close on the loan, right? There might be items that, that need repair, but they're not a health and safety issue that, that you can close a loan with. Maybe we hold some money in escrow. There's a couple of different ways that those things can be looked at. But another example of a health and safety issue is if, let's say, somebody has a deck on, the back of their house, and, part of the railing is
correct.
missing, or there is no railing, right? I mean, and it's off the ground a certain number of inches. That's a health and safety issue. And
That's a really, I think that's a good point.
yeah,
I think also I want to make just note that if for inspections, often inspectors, when you hire somebody, you may want to discuss, if you're thinking of selling the house, to do an inspection, a pre-inspection, to highlight any issues that a buyer may bring up, so you can address those, such as leaks or some issue with the electrical panel. But also, inspectors will often come to the house right before you close to assist you with the final walkthrough. And that's something that you can hire, and you can negotiate with your inspector when you're hiring that person to do the inspection before you sign the contract.
really great advice. I wish I would have had that on my list on my own.
No, it's really good. I know before I sold my last house, I did a pre-inspection,
Yeah.
and it was very good. So I kind of addressed the issues that I knew a buyer would bring up. So it just shows that also that you're maintaining your home. And I think that those
Yeah.
are good points.
Yeah. I
Well
always
stated.
it's money well spent, there's certain, you're getting ready to, for most people, they're making the largest purchase of their lifetime when they're buying a home. And to not spend, a few $100s, to do the inspection, don't let the cost prevent you from doing that. I mean, I always say it's money very well spent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if anybody has any questions about the appraisal process or about home inspections, feel free to reach out to one of us. And if not, we will see you on next Friday
Yeah, next Friday.
discussing
And
legal
hopefully
issues.
Leslie will be back with us. And
Yeah,
Michelle,
she wasn't feeling well, so she apologizes for
yeah,
not being with us today.
it's
We missed you.
all right. Well, listen, have a great weekend,
You too,
Michelle.
guys. Have a good one. Be well. Bye
Everyone,
bye.
so much. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.